Embattled New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has now lost the confidence of more than half of his constituents. New polling from Marist shows 59% of New Yorkers now think he should quit, following a damning report from the state attorney general, which found Cuomo sexually harassed at least 11 women and created a, quote, hostile work environment for women. Now, Cuomo denies ever touching anyone inappropriately. The governor also addressed one accuser specifically who says the governor asked her questions about her sex life, knowing that she was a sexual assault survivor.
I thought I could help her work through a difficult time. I did ask her questions I don't normally ask people. Charlotte, I want you to know that I am truly and deeply sorry. I brought my personal experience into the workplace.
It wasn't an apology, and he didn't take accountability for his actions. He can't once apologize and then say he didn't do anything wrong. He blamed me and said that I simply misinterpreted what he had said, but his line of questioning was not appropriate. He was coming on to me, and he insinuated that survivors of trauma and sexual assault can't tell the difference between mentorship and leadership and sexual harassment itself.
And joining us now is one of the New York State Democrats calling on Governor Cuomo to resign. Rodneyse Bichotte Hermelyn is a member of the State Assembly. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, you weren't one of the voices calling for the governor's resignation before this investigation was complete. Now you are. At this point, do you believe the governor has a single ally left in the state legislature?
I don't think so. You know, I think you have heard from my colleagues, from all lawmakers throughout New York State and throughout the United States that Governor Cuomo should resign and an impeachment process should proceed. And I can tell you, as the chair of the Brooklyn Democratic Party, one of the largest county parties in the nation, I believe that this type of gross misconduct against women is completely antithetical and to the party's values that we espouse, and it must stop all costs. And I believe that I am representing the voices of many and the majority of the concerned New Yorkers. His behavior was horrendous, and there's no place for it. But I have to say that eliminating my personal biasness and feelings towards this, and despite what the President Biden had said in terms of calling all of the lawmakers to call for his resignation and impeachment, the question does remain, can he be impeached? And I would say with a 168 report, 74,000 pieces of documentation, as well as 179 people who were interviewed on the sexual harassment on these 11 brave women, a report that was conducted independently by the Office of Attorney General Letitia James. I believe that there is sufficient evidence to proceed with an impeachment proceeding.
Now, you shared on Twitter that you've experienced harassment in your career, and so I'm curious what your reaction was when the governor, in his response to this report, played that picture montage as part of his defense. And first, here's a clip of that.
I do it with everyone, black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street.
What did you think about that?
First, I want to give my full sympathy to all the brave victims who endured these egregious experiences and took a heroic step forward to provide evidence and live testimonies for the purpose of us proceeding with an impeachment process. I have to say, you know, as a survivor of sexual abuse, seeing that video and just thinking about what's going through the minds of these victims triggered an emotional disturbance. I felt that it was a way to dismiss our sufferings, our pains, and to use it as a cover-up to say, I am not the person that these women have said I am. So it was quite disturbing, and I did not feel that it was an apology or he was apologetic to any of these victims. I think it was a way of him saying, I am innocent, and extremely dismissal. So it was appalling to me.
Now, back in 2008, we saw then Governor Eliot Spitzer resign after he was caught up in a prostitution scandal. And at the time, he said, quote, I cannot allow for my private failings to disrupt the people's work. Again, those were the words of then Governor of New York, Eliot Spitzer, as he resigned. Based on what you know of Governor Cuomo, why do you think he's refusing to resign?
Well, it's funny that you said that, Anna, because when Spitzer resigned, he resigned for less charges. And we are facing, I mean, Governor Cuomo is facing more serious charges. We don't know why it's very difficult for him to come to the realization that it's time for him to step down so that we can continue the work of the people of New York State. You know, people say that he wanted to exceed the terms that his father had served. He served for 3 years, 3 terms, and he wanted to serve for more than that. But I think it has a lot to do with who he is. Again, you saw Eliot Spitzer. He decided to step down on less charges. So again, it is really up to us, the assembly body, to continue to conduct the investigation, gather all the documentation, and put a package together that is sufficient and substantive enough to present to the Senate to proceed with the impeachment process.
So on that note, I know there's a group among the Assembly meeting on Monday to specifically speak about possible impeachment. What are you expecting to come out of that meeting, and what kind of a timeline are we talking about?
Well, it can vary. I think we in the Assembly have called for an expeditious process, but because we're dealing with thousands and thousands of documentation, and because we're determining whether this will be on the sexual harassment count or the other counts that are also being investigated, like the nursing home and the Mario Cuomo bridge, we are still figuring out what is the best approach. As you know, there's no precedence for this. But at the end of the day, the committee has to come up with all the documents, and it has to be a strong package of evidence that will be impeachable to present to the Senate body and the Court of Appeals for a strong argumentative procedure. So it might take a little bit more time. Okay.
New York State Assembly Member Rodneyse Bichotte Hermelyn, thank you for taking the time with us today.